The information I'm about to provide you will alter your perspective on XRP forever. A collision between the public markets and what's going behind the scenes is about to happen, and most people have no clue about it. It will surprise even the most ardent believers in this arena. I have personally witnessed the personal aspect of this narrative. I have seen private records, concealed ledgers, and even pricing that are never revealed to the public. You won't believe how near we are to turning a key when I give you the figures. Your money is not being advised by this. Allow me to explain. Some time ago, I stumbled onto a letter that Ripple had their hands in. It was a real message from the Thai government. This was no urban legend. If the Thai government wants to use XRP, it should do it on both the public and private ledgers, according to a letter that Ripple gave out. Ripple essentially laid forth their plans for and advantages of private sidechains in that document. This is the crucial section that alters everything. When contrasted with the public market, the prices recorded in the private ledger are absolutely staggering. What I mean is that the sidechains are displaying prices like $327,000 per XRP. Does this imply that tomorrow that price XRP will be openly traded? Yeah, that's totally not how it works. That being said, these sidechains are actually serving as test beds for full-scale settlement simulations, wherein institutions, governments, and big businesses are engaging. Consider it in this way. New skyscrapers have their pipes pressure tested to ensure there are no leaks before the water is turned on. Indeed, that is precisely the action that Ripple and its associates have taken. The team has been busy testing, modeling settlement volumes, and demonstrating the effects of large-scale international, institutional, and new rail XRP usage. And that is merely the initial component of this whole. First, something needs to be said before I delve further. Do not miss this if you wish to position yourself optimally for the upcoming wave of wealth transfer. I have compiled an incredible opportunity for you. Below this video, in the pinned comment, you'll find a link to something called the Ultimate Millionaire Investor Guide. Find 100x stocks. Included are documents, photographs, video breakdowns, and more that will teach you how to identify chances that can change your life and create riches for generations to come. Come on, let's focus on the here and now. Why bother making these sidechains at all is the main concern. Then why not have them managed by an outside party? The market will sort it out anyhow, so why not? I was fortunate enough to be present in the room at Singapore's Ripple Apex 2025 when the answer was given by Ripple themselves. An irritant for Ripple for a long time was finally answered by one of their leaders, Schwartzy, when he took the platform. I don't see why financial organizations can't just settle using the public XRP ledger DEX. It was a devastating response. He came right out and said that Ripple is a regulated institution that cannot bear the risk, no matter how slight, that their payment rails could be touched by an illicit transaction. Under regulatory guidelines, it is just off limits, regardless of how rare it is or how they may have known about it. That's the reason why the public DEX hasn't been usable by institutions. The innovation, however, occurs at this point. Permission domains are currently being released by Ripple. Within the XRP Ledger ecosystem, there are private zones that are regulated. You must undergo screening in order to proceed. There must be no evidence that you are engaging in unlawful activities linked to terrorism or sanctioned. You can do everything from providing liquidity to consuming it once you're inside, and you can even engage in arbitrage between the two. Most crucially, the DEX is now available for use in payment settlements by corporations, banks, payment providers, and other entities. I will explain it in simple terms. Large regulated financial institutions will have unprecedented access to XRP's power on a distributed ledger that was previously unimaginable. Next, consider the time. Ripple and its collaborators have been patiently waiting, developing, testing, and getting ready for years. Clarity on the legal side has long been lacking. Without it, institutions cannot function. Even with lightning-fast trains and dirt-cheap deals, major players will stay on the sidelines if the rules are unclear. For XRP, such has been the case. But hold on a second. At last, that clarity is here. Currently, the Senate is debating the Market Structure Bill, which establishes a transparent legislative framework for digital assets. This isn't some far-fetched notion either. The bill is expected to be signed into law by Donald Trump before Thanksgiving. According to Senator Cynthia Lummis, who is famous for being a Bitcoin maximalist, then XRP will be classified as a commodity, which is becoming more probable by the day. Give it some time to sit there. This is a commodity, not an investment. Institutions are granted access with that one definition. It takes away the last justification for not participating. This ensures that all parties involved in the payment process, including governments, banks, and suppliers, are fully informed. Return to the permitted domains now. With the official clarification and passage of the law, institutions will feel comfortable moving funds straight onto the XRP ledger. All of the private ledgers, sidechains, and concealed testing eventually make it into the public domain. Funds are flowing into the open market from hidden sources. Realization of settlement on a large scale occurs. things start to heat up after that. Have you forgotten about those exorbitant test fees? Keep in mind that private ledgers are doing simulations at levels that the public market is still unable to understand. Such were not haphazard. These experiments served as test beds for the potential of XRP in a global setting, and when the doors open, the market will be forced to adjust prices appropriately. There has never been a pump and hype cycle like this one. This holds the building. There is a systemic problem. Here, two realms come together. There is the open realm of retail trading and the hidden realm of institutional testing. There has never been a liquidity shock like it when they meet. The era of opposition has come to an end. Conventional financial wisdom has been resistant to deviation off the path for quite some time. The heritage system has been fiercely guarded and maintained. However, we have entered the harmony phase, when old systems and modern technologies are in perfect harmony with one another. For over 10 years, Ripple has been getting ready for this very second. We have activated the permission domains. Soon, the law will be clear. The institutions are also prepared. For that reason, I think we are on the cusp of a profound shift. Before they witness it unfold in front of their very eyes, most people will not believe it. It becomes clear why Ripple has been so patient when you take a step back and examine the broader perspective. They've been working on a solution that addresses systemic inefficiencies rather than isolated ones. It completely changes the way the world's financial system works. So that's why they took their time with it. For that reason, there have been covert simulations, private ledgers, sidechains, and years of covert testing. Seeing those astronomically high figures was never the point for the investor. It was all about making sure the system was completely foolproof when the time came. Just imagine a scenario where XRP is listed on a secret ledger as being worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. When you first hear it, it seems confusing. To what end would it ever reveal that amount when the public market just shows dollars? Everything falls into place, though, if you realize that those private chains are actually modeling settlement volumes of trillions of dollars. Extreme situations are being used to stress test liquidity. Everything that happens when XRP is used as the foundation for instantaneous cross-border transfers of huge amounts is being demonstrated. Now picture those identical flows making their way into the public ledger from behind the scenes. That is the true event that we are on the cusp of. Typically, arbitrage opportunities would be present if public and private chains remain distinct. However, they have no intention of doing so. The boundaries between the public and private sectors begin to blur once authorization domains are up and running and institutions receive approval. As a result, previously restricted flows are now fully integrated into the market. The price discovery mechanism is given new vitality, order books are expanded, and liquidity is deepened. Everyone, not just institutions, stands to gain from this arrangement, which is its greatest strength. Despite skepticism from the wider world, the retail community has held fast to XRP's potential as a bridge asset for many years. But Ripple was aware of the reality. Institutional flows could not be unleashed until the regulations were defined. The regulations are finally on their way, which implies that utility at scale, the very thing that retail has believed in, is finally going to show up in the data. The intriguing part is how Ripple planned this launch to address compliance, a major problem in the financial sector. A new sort of confidence in digital assets is what the permission domains are all about, not merely the creation of walled gardens. Pretend it's the security line at the airport. Boarding an overseas aircraft is not as easy as just showing there. You must first undergo screening and verification. The similar idea is applied to the flows of digital assets by permission domains. For institutions that cannot afford to take any risk, the fact that everyone is screened and knows the rules makes it a safe place. At this point, the network effect becomes operational. Other financial institutions will join the bandwagon once a few start supplying liquidity. Considering the availability of more modern, secure, and cost-effective alternatives, no bank wants to be the last one clinging to antiquated methods. While their competitors are able to transfer funds immediately for pennies, payment providers are still burdened with wire fees and delays. They fear falling behind and losing out on business. Overwhelming pressure to change occurs. Once the tipping point is reached, the change occurs quickly, as has been observed in every previous technological revolution. So how does this play out in the real world? Just pretend for a second that a bank in Europe is interested in settling with a bank in Thailand. That procedure is currently cumbersome. It adds unnecessary fees, delays, and middlemen to the process. However, by utilizing XRP as a bridge, Ripple's protocol enables that identical transfer to occur quickly. This has been demonstrated at scale in the private ledger experiments. The final hurdle is removed by the legal clarity, and the compliance is ensured by the permission domains. The flow is becoming tangible, and once it begins, it continues indefinitely. Although banks aren't the last victims, this solution is accessible to businesses of any size. Using Ripple's rails could result in huge savings for multinational firms that transfer billions of dollars monthly across borders. Because they are no longer burdened by traditional expenses and delays, even smaller enterprises who trade globally gain an advantage. In addition to that, regular people, those who send money abroad, freelancers, and anybody else who moves money internationally can also reap the benefits. At this point, the plot thickens. Reason being, Ripple isn't aiming for a one-use. Entire financial highways are being constructed. After it's laid, any type of traffic can use it. Everything from payments and settlements to tokenized assets and possibly entire markets. More than simply money can be stored on the XRP ledger. It's for all kinds of worth. For that reason, establishments are paying closer attention than before. We must not forget to mention the significance of time in this entire process. This is not an accident in any way. The environment wasn't conducive to Ripple's move for a long time. Authority figures were not in sync. Authorities were apprehensive. There was no motivation for conventional banking to change. However, by 2025, everything is falling into place. Something new has happened in politics. More and more people are eager to hear about blockchain innovations. The need for new financial infrastructure can no longer be disregarded. It is the global economy that is driving this change. The inefficiencies of the previous system, along with the growing need for quicker settlement and the volumes of cross-border trade, are putting pressure on all parties involved. For governments, the signs are plain to see. Nowadays, digital assets are essential. They're bound to happen. Meanwhile, Ripple was in the ideal position to act as a link between the old and the new. For that reason, the test settings were crucial. Ripple would have been unable to demonstrate XRP's scalability without them. They demonstrated it, though. They proved that XRP has the potential to settle at levels unseen by the public market. And now that assurance will lead to adoption without a doubt. Everyone wants to know when the price will be reflected in it. When it comes down to it, the truth is that prices are the last to catch up. We prioritize the infrastructure. After that, there is the compliance framework. Adoption is ranked third. The asset's value is reevaluated by the market only after that. However, the onset will be abrupt. There will be a price adjustment. Reason being, previously concealed, tested, and contained liquidity will all come gushing out at once. A change of this magnitude doesn't unfold gradually. The impact is sudden. Moreover, the majority of individuals will be taken unawares by this point. They will be led to believe that XRP appeared out of thin air, but in truth, it was a long time coming. Everywhere you look, you can see the signs: secret pricing, private ledgers, official correspondence, and the covert creation of permission domains. This was all predetermined. Everything we did was in advance of the exact setting we're going to encounter. Just think about the consequences of XRP becoming formally classified as a commodity. So the threat of regulation is no longer there. As a result, institutional investors can confidently allocate funds. Thus, there is no room for legal ambiguity when building investment vehicles, ETFs, derivatives, or structured products directly on top of XRP. The liquidity base immediately grows in size as a result. Also happening at the same time are the opening of previously closed payment routes, and markets that were hesitant finally get going. Additionally, this isn't limited to just one area because Ripple's collaborations are worldwide in scope. There's no shortage of it. Europe, Africa, the Americas, and Asia. There isn't just one nation where this is happening. It's a real-time unfolding of global alignment. Consider the scale now. The demand for XRP will outstrip the supply on public markets, even if only a small proportion of the world's cross-border settlement traffic uses it. In contrast to fiat currencies, there is an absolute maximum. XRP worth 100 billion, most of which is not yet accessible. The fundamental factor that causes prices to rise is the disparity between supply and demand. Also, as the dam breaches, it's going to hit hyperdrive. The last component is market psychology. Everything changes when the story moves from ambiguity to certainty, from guesswork to acceptance. After initially stating, "We'll wait and see," institutions are now rushing to gain publicity. Regular people who were skeptical about the schedule are flooding back in. The media's attitude changes from doubt to excitement. Thus, the feedback loop is initiated. An increase in price inspires interest, which in turn encourages purchase, which drives up the price even further. That is why the legal clarity, authorization domains, and private ledgers should all be seen as a single narrative. They are not distinct occurrences. They're all working together like a well-oiled machine that has been meticulously assembled over many years. Ripple planned this out meticulously, and the timing is impeccable. Currently, we find ourselves on the cusp of that change. After extensive testing and thorough sealing of all leaks, the system has been validated. Now regulators are ready to turn the switch, and the financial world will never be the same. In the end, what will happen when the walls fall? Everyone is wondering that, and the truth is that we're beginning to see the answer take shape. Domains with permission are not some abstract idea. They have arrived. There is no fanciful notion behind the regulatory framework. The years of private testing are not mere background noise. It is currently making its way through the halls of power. They have been getting the system ready for this very second. Therefore, the following step is easy to explain but has far-reaching consequences: bringing previously private funds into the open market. The supply-demand equation will be altered irrevocably once that occurs. The results of all of the private ledger stress tests pointed to the same thing. XRP is capable of handling the volume of a worldwide settlement. However, the price mechanism responds in real time as soon as that same scale begins to move over the public ledger. At that point, price adjustments will start. Have this idea in mind. Private ledgers have served as a trial run. Everything is in its proper place: the stage, the performers, and the lighting. There was a glaring absence of spectators. The stage is being set for a live performance, and the entire financial world will be watching. Furthermore, there is no way to stop it once it has begun. The previously practiced liquidity plays out in the real-time markets, and XRP's price changes to reflect its actual usefulness. The most remarkable aspect of this change is the harmony that has developed among technology, regulations, and consumer desire. A missing element persisted for a long time. The technology may have been prepared, but the regulations were not. The regulations may have been in the works, but no institutions showed any interest in them. On the other side, demand was there, but the railroads were unable to meet it. But in this year, 2025, those obstacles are all falling down at the same time. If you've ever seen gears turn individually for years, you've seen them finally lock into place. Now that the machines are in sync, the time it will take for widespread use is decreasing. Global governments, central banks, and payment firms have all established agreements with Ripple. These collaborations are systemic, not local. Furthermore, entire industries get swept along with systemic players when they make the changeover. That's why it will have a domino effect rather than a slow acceptance. Think about the consequences of a single, large central bank completely adopting Ripple's technology. You can't deny the efficiency improvements. The other central banks will be afraid to fall behind. Commercial banks, businesses, and even individual customers will all follow suit as a result of this pattern of adoption, which is driven entirely by competition. These days, the only questions are when and how quickly. The most important thing is this: until all the dominoes have fallen, the markets will not move. As soon as the first few dominoes fall, they start pricing in the future. With the arrival of clarity and the movement of liquidity into permission areas by institutions, the market will begin to anticipate the rest. At that point, steam begins to boil. Additionally, XRP is now acknowledged as the foundation of a new worldwide payment system rather than merely another digital asset. At that moment, the feedback loop is strong. Liquidity increases as adoption rises. Confidence is fueled by greater liquidity. Greater adoption is attracted by assurance. Once XRP becomes ingrained in the global finance system, the cycle will recur and compound. When we step back, it's about more than just the XRP price. The implications for the financial system are at the heart of the matter. Our planet has been stuck on antiquated tracks for a long time. As a rule, there have been many tiers of fees, days-long settlement windows, correspondent banks, and swift messaging. That, however, is going to change soon. We are entering a new era where value may be transferred just as quickly and readily as knowledge. Plus, XRP is marketed as the connecting asset that enables this to happen. That change will affect industries other than finance. It alters the way governments handle reserves, businesses function, and even the average person deals with money. Envision a society where money transfers that took days before could come in a matter of seconds, in which international transaction costs do not cripple small enterprises' ability to compete on a global scale. In a world where money may move freely across oceans, opening doors that were previously inaccessible. Ripple has been working toward that world, and now it's within grasp. Also, keep in mind that we're not limiting ourselves to the literal expression of monetary value. You name it. The XRP ledger can tokenize and transfer any asset, currency, commodity, security, or even non-existent value at this point in time. It follows that payments aren't the only area we're seeing an adoption curve for. It goes much beyond that, touching on supply chains, carbon credits, real estate, and more. The utility, demand, and liquidity of XRP are all enhanced by each of those usage cases. For this reason, the private ledger pricing, which were startling at first glance, make perfect sense. The amount of settlement that XRP can support when used to its full capacity is reflected in their actions. That possibility goes from being a theoretical one to a tangible one now that the law is clear. Once the private market learns something, the public market starts to factor it into prices. This moment is of the utmost importance. Institutions, regulators, and technology all need a digital asset that can be defined and supported at scale for a long time. XRP is currently filling the job. There will be no denying the repricing event once the market acknowledges it, because most people will be focusing on XRP's history. It will go unnoticed. They will remember it as the token that was in a state of uncertainty due to pending litigation, lack of clarity, and acceptance. Legal action compelled Ripple to establish foolproof compliance procedures. Regulators were able to realign due to the delay, and covert testing on private ledgers prepared the way for worldwide adoption, but they refused to acknowledge that these years of waiting were actually building years. The change will have already taken root by the time it becomes apparent. Being early is important for this reason. During the first stages of both owning an asset and comprehending its story, because getting in at the ground level isn't an option once the storyline moves from doubt to certainty. And there's no mistaking it. The storyline has changed. The institutions are forming a line, the parts are moving, and the rails are laid. This is going to be the biggest inflow of capital into digital assets that the world has ever seen. It revolves around XRP. The coming months are going to be pivotal. The stage is being set with the market structure law, institutions getting ready to onboard, and Ripple getting ready to unlock permission domains. The following step is not planning, but rather carrying out the plan. A cascade of dominoes is falling. Now we only need to know how fast the remainder will fall. Those who can see the big picture can start making plans right now. We are not witnessing a temporary increase. Rather, we are witnessing the fundamental revaluation of an asset as it moves from being an asset with potential to one with utility, from being on the periphery of global finance to its epicenter. There will soon be a liquidity shock. As soon as it arrives, the market will never be the same. And here's a straightforward method to merge understanding with opportunity for individuals who are prepared to take action. Discover 100x Stocks, the definitive investor guide to making $1 million, in the pinned comment below. This resource is packed with documents, photographs, and videos that will teach you how to identify incredible chances before they go viral. Additionally, by utilizing my Robinhood link, you can receive free NVDA stocks with a mere $1 deposit. Easy as pie. Both provide you with information, but one also provides you access to one of the world's most powerful assets at this very moment. That's the way to get ready for the future. Now is the time. Now all we need to know is if you'll be prepared to flick the switch.